Okay. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Muhammad Azam, and I happen to be the host of this podcast. And I have a very special guest, Hamza Khan. He is a final year MBBS student at the Burnout Medical College. He reads. He is a very close friend of mine, and we're gonna have a conversation right now. Hamza, thank you so much for being here.
No, there is no actual need of a thank you at all because this time of the day you have to actually do something in your life. It's 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. or you feel very lost at home sitting in a bed. And since we actually don't do anything at all, so it's a very traumatic time to be at home. So thank you for giving some purpose to my time. Thank you very much.
Yeah. What are you doing these days? What are you keeping yourself busy with these days?
So there are vacations these days, and as a medical student, I hope uh, most of us that are going to watch this video, and even you and me, we are medical students, and we have been forced upon to do certain things for the past 5 to 6 years. And when we are given a choice, like vacations, to do something in vacations that we like, that too in the start of the session, we get actually very lost. So I do keep myself busy with my carom at home and some books that I study. So when it comes to reading, I do like to keep a main book to keep myself busy with and something to get my mind off uh, the actual book that I'm studying. So I've been reading Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. It's more than halfway gone, and it's very good. I already miss it, but and I have been rewatching Ashfaq Ahmed's lectures, and this time I'm making some notes, maybe to probably have a new intake on it.
I understand that. Speaking of reading, when did you actually start getting into reading? When did you actually fall in love with the idea of reading?
It was very later on than actually someone might think, uh, considering the number of books that I have in my shelf. It can be paradoxical, but I do remember it was uh, quite later, even later than my metric, because it's safe to assume that I do come from a place that reading as a hobby is not that privileged, and calling it that privilege is an understatement. So I was walking by Board Bazaar one day, and there were books lying in front of the Blue Tech petrol pump. So and they were like 100 per book. So I was like, this is a steal, even though I didn't know why someone would buy a book. So I there was a book of Stephen Hawking by um, on the introduction of time. I never actually read that book, but ever since that day, I was really into the fact that even in my cadet life or in life in school, there was always uh, a thought of something being what it is by default, and someone being a bully, or someone being a studious person, or someone being a lazy person, or someone being an addict, and so on,
Mhm,
was by default, and there was nothing that that person had to do with it. It was a very naive take, a person who has never had an opinion on anything.
mhm,
So when I heard that it is stated in a book that this is not the way it is, and what we are is something that we and the things around us shape us. So that was the real moment that I wanted to read that thing that was so astronomically surprising to me, that how can that be, how could I have not known that. So that was actually the start of how I started reading.
how do you explain that more?
um, Yani, I was extremely naive for an 18-year-old who was a good 6 feet build guy. I didn't actually know that you actually want actually have to want to do something bad for it to happen.
Mm.
I thought that it actually is by default and anything, and you are like this by default, and everyone is like this by default.
Mhm.
I hadn't come up with the idea that people actually have to grow into the products that they make of themselves, that they end up with. So I started reading opinions on that it doesn't actually happen uh, on their own, and that was the actual start of the reading. I cannot actually explain that in a more deeper sense because it isn't actually explainable at all. There are just some things that we do that we try to make reasons for, but in actuality, they are quite spontaneous, and there is nothing we could have done to not let that happen. So,
I get that. Tell me
yes, yes.
and then again, like I get the general perspective of why you actually got into reading. But then again, like when you go on and on and on, and you see different genres and you see different perspectives, and then you kind of seem to like certain genres, and then you kind of just ignore certain genres, right? And you get into a specific realm of the things that you actually like. These days, what are some of the things, or what are some of the kinds of books that you actually enjoy reading?
Hmm. So, down the spiral, when I started reading actually comprehensive books that were making some sense. So they made a deep effect on the personality and the way I talked and the way I ate, as they should. So nowadays, what I had learned or what I thought I had learned, uh, I am starting to maybe criticize them and maybe deconstruct them because I do not want to end up in a place where I firmly adhere to my opinion because it does not actually matter that I adhere to an opinion. What
Mhm.
matters in reading, what I actually started even on, as I stated, that I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to know what mattered and what did not matter. And down the line, that purpose remains, and that does not continuously right now at this moment. It is telling me that I should be reading something that contradict or maybe criticize my opinions, and I'm really adhere to the fact now that whenever we read something, we should always be on the lookout for literature or opinions that go hand in hand against it. And paradoxically, those opposite opinions make us actually understand the opinion that we are reading even more, and that is my current goal now. It's not actually a goal because it can't really be achieved at some point, but that is the road that I'm taking, which is probably will not end, but it is the road that I'm enjoying right now.
I understand that. I understand that. You speak about books, right? This is your general perception of why do you read and what is your process. Can you help me walk through your actual process of sitting down with a book and then going about it? Because there are people who annotate certain things, there are people who take notes from a book, there are people who read a summary before the book, there are people who like to just go through Reddit about the book, and there are people have their different ways of reading book. What is your way of reading book, and how has that changed over the years?
Okay, so the primary reason I started reading was spontaneous, so I had no other choice but to pick books on the public persona, which they thought was a good book. So I went with that in maybe a decade ago or 7, 8 years ago. So it actually started with that. I used to sit down and I used to see that people are using highlighters and people are using annotations without actually knowing the purpose of all these things, as most of us don't actually know the purpose of what we do,
Mhm.
especially in reading. So we only copy what other things do, people do. So I was doing those things and it was very helpful. But when I actually knew the purpose of them, I came across a book. Uh, I remember the title. It is How to Read a Book. It is a very, very famous book. It is a very authentic book. I highly, highly recommend it to everyone at all. I don't remember the author. I believe it's she. You can anyone can Google it. It's a very prominent book. But in that 360-page book, that author completely deciphers from the intentions of reading a book to how to read a book and to actually what to decipher from a book. So I I research on a book when I'm in a bookstore or some unknown bookstore, because that has to be something I can afford. So I usually have my Goodreads on, and I do see a short summary when I am in that bookstore. But when I am at home and I want to buy a specific book for which I have to go to a bookstore, I do go through it a bit in detail through YouTube, or maybe through Google, or maybe through Reddit as well. Maybe through most probably through the author. I do go through the author because reviews are very ambiguous, and they are very biased. Everything is biased, but reviews are very biased. It is quite actually hard to have a proper unbiased and very honest review on something. Then I got too attached to those things. So I just like to go and I like to pick whatever I like seeing, and I try to read that. And now I'm in that phase of my reading cycle that I go and I pick whatever that looks good to my eyes. I'm in that phase right now. I'll jump back to the more authentic phase, but right now I'm in that phase.
I understand. I am assuming that you are very social and extrovert as well, which I probably know as well. But then, when you're reading a book, you have to, pick a corner and then sit in a corner and just be with the book and just absorb it and then wrestle with the ideas. So, how do you find that? How do you maintain your social energy and then getting back to your corner and reading a book? How do you divide the time, or is it very spontaneous?
Um, we can't leave something like that to being spontaneous, because we can't. Another human being is an extremely important person. We cannot just leave our interaction with another human being on spontaneity. So we have to control it in that some sense. Now, some control it in a sense that you said, that they go to a corner and they uh, read, and they think that they believe that they have to sit in a corner and think on it in a very deep manner, and that manner will help them understand the book and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. Uh, but I do not believe in that, because most of whatever has been written has been on the human condition, on the human social condition, on the human personal condition, on the human community condition, on human economic condition, or whatever at all, as far as the imagination goes. And I believe if that reading that in a way that isolates you from that very human condition is a very big tragedy for someone. Um, because the purpose of a very good literature, I am not saying about everything, because millions of books exist, of course, but authentic literature, the purpose of authentic literature was to be as close to the human condition as possible. So we may not be comfortable on it some days, we may be tired, and we may not be comfortable going out with someone, or sitting with someone, or going and eating out with someone, but understanding that that is the purpose of my life, and the purpose of my study, and the purpose of whatever we do. So I and people in general have to rely on them being tolerant to this, and not just being spontaneous to this.
Yeah. I asked this question because I have personally struggled with kind of categorizing things, as in like these are my relationships, and then this is my personal time, and then this is my academic time, and then this is. So I have personally struggled with that. So I just wanted to ask, like, is it like a very active process of you trying to dedicate, for example, if I have this month, because I think in
Mhm.
that version, I always kind of like to plan certain things and put things in boxes so I can easily give time to them or give my energy to them. So that is why I ask, and I believe you don't struggle with that because it just comes naturally to you.
No, I could not disagree to that in any more energy. In the words of Robin Williams himself in That Poor Society, he does say that uh, uh, he does argue that who are we to let people to be able to choose to who to let into our lives, and
Yeah,
who to and to argue with ourselves that this person is good for me or this person is not good for me. And that is an extreme pseudo altruism or some pseudo truthfulness to a person. Even Osho does criticize this, that a person who claims to love a person is even less involved in love as is a shopkeeper. That a person who claims to love will only love to the extent that the other person delivers back, or at least acknowledges back that yes, I am being loved by you.
help me
And the
understand that.
moment
I didn't get this. Help me understand
uh,
this more.
yes, of course, and he says that we claim that I claim that I love a person B, and I will only love her until that person allows me, acknowledges me, and gives back to some extent. The moment that person stops loving me, I stop loving him, her as well. Yani, I did not even have a price on it beforehand. A salesman has a price on someone that if you give this much to it, you will deserve it. I did not even have a price on it. He does say that this is not love. This is actually a laughing stock on love, and we should not criticize it as much. So coming back to the actual question, that putting things in boxes and be able to know what to put in. So the more you actually um, study literature or anything at all, anything in this good world, so the more you come up with the fact that I know pathologically less amount of everything. So when you realize that you know nothing, then that capability of yourself to be able to put things into boxes and be confident with it also decreases with time, because then you realize that maybe your judgment on putting things in where they belong is weak, and the things which you put in different boxes might not actually belong there, because quote unquote you don't know anything.
Yeah,
So I do suffer with it. Everyone suffers with it. And we go to one extreme and then we go to the other extreme. And when we go to this extreme, we lose this. And when we go there, we lose this. And that is why I said in the start that it's not actually a destination that which we can achieve. It is a fine struggle and something that gives life purpose, I guess.
I understand. You write as well. What like I think when you read certain things, then you have this tendency to write as well. Why do you write?
Uh, the first thing I ever actually actively wrote, I think whatever we give a name to or a purpose to, you have to actually go to why and where it started. It started when I was very distorted and very fed up with the caste system in marriage. I think, yes, I do believe I was I was burdened with the fact that certain women in our society, in which the culture which we live in, I have been impromptu burdened by default certain things and certain expectations. I remember I wrote on that purpose, and I was very frustrated, and I felt very good after writing that, even though the words were very gibberish and they meant they were a very big disgrace to the Urdu language, but the purpose was fulfilled. So I was very happy with that later on in my life, that the actual start of writing was not actually to please someone or to fit in a box that was set up by someone else. It was a very inward voice that I did call to, and I have always wanted to adhere to that purpose. Whatever I write currently and publicly, at least write very stupid things I write about, but what they are an amalgam of personal and cumulative suffering that we go through. And lately, it has been about not only the suffering that we go through, but the extremely appalling fact that we can do nothing about it, and we are so helpless as individuals, because the society has forced us to be individuals and less of collective people. And the more alone a person is, the less he can do for the world, and the less he can be happy. So that is what
You
is
said that
the main topic of my writing.
you said that like you particularly speak about the sufferings that you see in life. Individually, if you look at your life, uh, how do you see that suffering? Do you surrender yourself to the suffering around you, or what do you do about that generally in your own capacity?
Um, the I have lived a very privileged life, to be honest. I have not. I believe that if I cry on some things, that is extremely stupid, because people are going through a lot. And the worst thing is that people who are supposed to do something about it are not doing anything about it and doing the actual opposite of it. So the first thing in this astronomically dystopian world that we live in is to actually even know that we are being suffered from. We are being put in an emotional turmoil of a senses, of a Himalayan senses, that we don't even know that we actively suffer in throughout our life, throughout our day. So the first and the primary step that any person in this society, in this millennia, can go through is to actually identify the causes of his suffering, and the principal um, progressors that are day and night working to make us suffer and make us extremely numb. So I believe that if I, at the end of my maybe long, maybe short life, maybe most probably insignificant life, if at the end of it, maybe I can even identify one or two of the causes of suffering, that then maybe people will come up with a solution of at least handling them. Handling them, to me, is far a greater good that I can ever do. But we can at least identify them, the what we are going through with.
Do you believe in that identifying certain areas and then trying to clean it from in your own capacity? Is it like better, like as you said, that we can identify certain things and then handling it and managing it and then cleaning it and doing something about it and then you know exponentially doing something about it? Do you think that is a better way as opposed to just surrendering to the suffering and just accepting it as it is?
It, I believe it all depends on the purpose of the suffering. No two sufferings were born equal. So whenever it comes to suffering, we have to identify it, whether it is by my own hand, whether it is essential, whether it is not essential. Um, but it does come with an look, that itself is a suffering propaganda, a dystopian propaganda, that whatever doesn't kill us make us stronger. Let us take an example of that. So we are being taught that when you wake up, you have to force yourself to wake up, and you have to go to the gym, and you have to force yourself to read, and you have to force yourself to study, and that is the human purpose. And you have to grind yourself and go out in the heat and wear as uncomfortable clothes as possible in the most uncomfortable time of the day. Now that itself is suffering, and it is being justified. And if anyone can even identify this monstrosity, that you can that the purpose of the human condition, the purpose of human life, is to hate himself to work, is extremely shameful. And we are being injected this in every pore of our veins, in every pore of our body, that this is the only way for a person to actually function, is to grind himself, is to hate himself. That is what I meant by simply identifying a problem. There is no greater mm, purpose. There's no greater purpose than to actually even identify a monster, a dragon. That this is the problem. You are telling people to hate themselves because I won't lie, that is the easier thing to do than to teach someone to know themselves and to teach someone to love themselves and to tell someone that hating yourself is not the only way you can function. That was not the a man who cannot love himself cannot in any manner love people around him. That leads to extremism. That leads to very less tolerance. You have seen the people that can't that have no other purpose but the gym. uh, this is by no means saying that physical fitness and anything is not desired. It shouldn't be desired. I'm saying it should be desired, but not aestheticized in a way that it makes us hate people who don't actually do it. And that is what I mean by extremism and the inability to tolerate the inability of these people to tolerate other people because they don't even tolerate themselves. They don't tolerate the condition in which they are living. They have to hate themselves in order to function. Now you teach people that through generations and generations and generation and let and tell them that this is your purpose of life and nothing else matters. This is a dystopian society far beyond something that even Orwell discussed. And that is what I meant by identifying suffering.
Hmm. But then again, and do you think it's necessary, or like what is the reason? Like why do we suffer in the first place?
Uh, I will assume that you mean it in an actual suffering way and not that pseudo suffering that we muddy the water and to make it seem deep, or we suffer because it has been aestheticized and darkened. Me, I'll leave all that and I'll assume that uh, essential suffering. So essential suffering in my idea, in my belief, is as necessary as life is in itself to it. But it is a very delicate matter for because um, we are being suffered so much. Unjust suffering, psychological suffering, emotional suffering has reached such a peak limit that we don't even have time for ourselves to suffer essentially. And by essential suffering, I mean suffering for thy neighbor, suffering for thy mother, suffering for your father, suffering for his ailing condition, suffering for the inevitability of his death, suffering for the incurable diseases that people are going through, suffering for the justified suffering that people are going through. We are being put under such emotional stresses, such psychological stresses that it is stopping us from suffering even in a true manner. In a way, we have been rid of all choices. We live in a determinist dystopia, which generally means that we have been given some choices and we cannot leave them, and it's the end of the world. I always, when it comes to suffering and freedom, yeah, yani, I always go back to the argument that Zizek makes that if we have a small 10-year-old girl and we have to go to her grandmother's house and I'm her father, and I tell her that you have to go to your grandfather's house or your grandmother's house, and there is nothing you can do about it. While on the other hand, there is a postmodernist father who tells her daughter that we are going to your grandmother's house. You can go or you cannot go, but just imagine how happy she'll be if she sees you there. So any postmodern person would say that the second option is a far more free option, and that girl is being given much more freedom, and that girl is being treated better. But I and Zizek differ here because in the first option, we tell the child to go because she is an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, and the father is most likely in his 30s or 40s, or maybe even if he's in 20s, he's twice as the girl's age. So he will do what is better for the girl. So we tell her to go to her grandmother and don't argue about it. So we actually give that girl the freedom of being angry with her father. We give her that much freedom. But in the second choice, we have to actively announce to the girl that if you are going to your grandmother's house, you have to be happy about it. I am ordering you to be happy about it. And if you are not, and if you go there, you don't even have the right to be sad there. You don't have the right to be angry with me because you went by definition on your own choice. Whereas in reality, that trust does not exist. She's being ordered. Um, Even though we have strayed from the question, but cleaning that out had to be done. And when it comes to essential suffering, that has to be made. Essential suffering has to occur in a human condition by his own choice. The choice to be uneasy, the choice to be something more, to be a better person, to be someone that does something more for himself or those around him, to be able to be of some more use to this world. To suffer for that, there is no more noble cause.
Understand, and makes a lot of sense, and I do get your points. Uh, Also, let's shift the gears a little bit and let's speak about other areas of life because I really want to continue this conversation and talk about this more, but we have to keep it short. Tell me about
Yes,
some
of
of your
course, of
other
course.
general rules that you follow in life. Like we always have certain rules which we follow, if it is in terms of relationships, if it's uh, like how do you live? If you can just talk about that.
It's not to start with. It's not actually how I live. It's there may be things because a person is not actually a statue of philosophy or some philosophical thought. So he will fail it all his life. So do I. But um, one should share and one can share what he believes a person should live like, should love like. Even though that is a very broader question, but I'll hinder to a point and explain that. So I was reading Dostoevsky throughout these 3 4 years, but I do go back to him most of the time. So he dives a lot into what love should be and what love should not be and how actually people love. And he's a very great example of what I actually talked about now, that how to fail in love. He, he talks about consciousness, and he talks about what happens in the human condition and how he feels and how he does gambling and how he does murder and how he does this and that and this and that all actually becomes a part of his suffering. But and, and in the end, when he gives us everything, when he gives us every formula to a problem, when he gives us every answer to a problem, he also tells us something that uh, it takes something more than intelligence to act intelligently, and that is something so profound that very few people can actually take notes from it. Because I uh, what what we love and what we don't love and what we want to love, it all comes down to purpose. It everything, call it purpose, call it intention. Some people call it good intention, some people call it good purpose, a higher purpose. But it all comes down to love, because uh, in a society that we live in, we started with this, that we actually only love those that we know are able to give us that love in any form, in the form which we give in physical form, in emotional form, in any form at all. And we by no means are willing to love anyone who cannot uh, do it on the level that we are doing, and that is very, very saddening. That is very saddening. Um, I believe that true love is in the truest form is uh, I can explain it in this manner that if I like your mustaches and if I like your hairline and if I like your eyes, then it impromptu means that I like you because these things belong to you. But to me, I believe that they should be in a completely reverse manner. If I like a person, I will like his her nose and I will like his ears, and automatically it will all make sense to me in a way that the imperfection itself is absolute perfection. I would like nothing more to change in that person. And that is in actuality love, by the old definition, by the human definition. Uh, the fan that is uh, hovering above you, you have no concern for that, but you get some mechanic from a company and he'll be in awe. If that is a good quality fan, he'll be in awe of its beauty. He'll look at the curves and he'll look at the way it's manufactured and he'll look at the way it's working because he actually loves it. A true mechanic I'm talking about, not someone who does the job for the money and everything. So I believe that purpose of my love and love around us should be uh, purely loving them in the actual sense, and not loving them because they do certain things or certain acts. I think that's very foolish, and that is bound to lose at some point.
Very profound answer. But like then again, like as like what you are trying to say is that uh, you don't have to look at a person and look at their physical features or where they come from or their background and how rich they are or how pretty they are. You have to just completely ignore that. But then again, we get to choose our life partner. We get to choose, uh, or like maybe we don't get to choose it as you said in the movie. That we don't get to choose who we let into our weird little lives. People just come into our lives and then we get to see them, and maybe we should just surrender and we should just like just see whatever comes in our life and just accept it for what it is, not for what it can be or what we can change it into, right? And that should be uh, the reason for us to just laugh. But I still don't get the true essence of it. Like you explained it beautifully, but I still don't
Hmm.
like. I'm not satisfied.
I disagree to the way you explained it because I did not by any means say that we have to ignore the apparent features of a person.
Hmm.
Because we do not actually we should not be actually the moment you identify the cause of loving someone, you don't actually love them.
Yeah,
The moment
that's very
you
true.
realize that you love a person for this reason, you don't actually love them. You cannot say that
Hmm.
I love a person not for his physical feature. You love the amalgam of what he is, of what his emotional features are, of what his intellectual features are, or what his existence is, mixed with those physical features, and it makes a person. We love that,
Hmm.
and there is absolutely nothing we would want to be able to change in that. That is by no means saying that we should ignore a person's uh, socioeconomic status. You can ignore by all means. It is completely absurd. But the physical features and everything that surrounds him or her, those are completely important, but not as important in a sense that we can point it out that I love a guy for this reasons, and I will marry or I will have a friend only who has this features. I think that is completely narcissistic, and that is very incapable with a functioning emotional society.
Understand. What are some of the things that you are still figuring out about your own self?
Um, the absolute atrocity that the human condition lies in is his ability to adhere to a specific set of rules. I'm currently very much into held by the constraints of this, because whatever we believe in, we are held by such a manner that we find it hard to jump into something else. Yani I used to buy a lot of books in maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, but then I was very fed up by it. I was thinking like, why am I buying this much? And this is not good for my finances being a student, and this is not good for this, and this is not good for that, and I should not be reading this, because if my purpose is actually reading, then I can read by a free. That is, we are going to jump back to that love thing by this example. I told myself that I can read from an ebook or an EPUB, or an app or anything, and it is literally the same book, the same information, and it should be same feeling. So I stopped buying books this past 1 year, and I used to read whatever I could read on my tab or I could read on my phone. But the other the past week, I was surprised that I was actually missing myself buying books, because that buying was actually being a part of me actively endorsed into reading that book. Yani any intellectual or any psychoanalytic analytical person would say that we love book reading, because so if we love it, we can read it in any manner. But just as I said, even though the appearances of a book of a person are not essential, but they do play a part in our loving that person. But we should not accompany it to that. So I went back again the past week to buying a book. So I was very fed up. I was very
What about
disappointed
your tablet
in
then?
my.
You got a tablet for 1 lakh something rupees, and then now you are shifting back to buying books
Yes,
again.
yes.
What have you
So I
been
was very
replacing the tablet for?
disappointed. So I was very disappointed at my insignificant beliefs that we have to jump from extremes to extreme in our mind. Maybe not in practical. We can be tolerant in practice, and we can be understanding in practice. But I'm talking about deep emotional manner, personal manner. That emotionally we always have to jump from extreme to extreme. It is very tiring sometimes.
Yeah. We both, the audience, we are all in this growing phase of life. We are constantly experiencing things. We are constantly, managing different areas of our lives, and we constantly learn. Of course, like the kind of introspection you have, or I believe we have. What are some of the things that you've recently learned? If you can just throw some light on them, some any lesson that you have learned recently, it can be about anything. I want you to give us something that maybe we can reflect on.
Hmm. So I don't really have much in my life except reading books and these people and shit. So I will go always to those for a reference. So when it came to reading books and staying with people and interacting with people and making friends and whatever and studying or making the world a better place, it all came down to the purpose of it. Reading books is a very good thing by all means, but it is the best possible thing someone can do. But if not guided by the proper purpose, then it is simply a theater show for the world to clap for you and to tell you that, oh yes, you read, or you do this and you do that. Maybe it is even a theater show for your own self, if not for people. That you are doing a show for yourself. You are telling yourself that, okay, you are a good person because you are reading, and that is it, and that is very unfortunate. I've come to realize it is very unfortunate. And that is where a greater purpose, a true honest purpose, something that you have to crush out of yourself, is extremely important, and it doesn't come out of the blue to someone, to anyone at all. You have to actually work for finding a purpose. It is different for everyone. I will say it is different for everyone, but the way you have to go through it is same for everyone. So you have to have a purpose, and that purpose can be because I'm studying and I'll use that in a future on a debate that will help someone. Okay, I'm reading and I'm studying books because I want to be a better person, or I'm studying or I'm reading so that I can understand different opinions, or I'm studying or I'm reading in for so that if I uh, read a different opinion other than myself, how can I tolerate that? But the modern purpose has been extremely zombified, and it has been extremely dehumanized into something that a writer has to be popular, and in the author of God of Small Things herself says that the actual original purpose of a writer was to be unpopular, to not fall into these categories of writers that we have today, that whose only purpose is to shine their intellect in the world. Reading is a much more personal act that has effects on anything but your own personality. It has effects on the world in a manner you cannot imagine at all. You cannot imagine at all. So what I've come to realize that purpose in life generally and in reading is so important that the material which you read does not matter at all. And but then again, I'm saying that we cannot go to the extremes of reading, because going into a corner is good, going into a corner is good, and you can read more books and you can do this and you can do that. But the purpose is not to read more books, the purpose is not to be a higher intellectual guy. The purpose is to do something better for those that are around us. And if reading is a mode into that, then there is nothing better than that. But if it is hindering you from people that are around you, your siblings, your parents, your grandparents, it does not matter at all. Wisdom does not lie in the amount of knowledge you gain. I think I have realized that we cannot punish ourselves into wisdom. We cannot punish ourselves into intellect. We can only do it by a very subtle and a very deep dissection of the human nature.
Beautiful. If you could go back and if you could rewrite a letter to your own 17 or 18 years old self, what are some of the things that you would tell your younger self?
Um, I feel my younger self was a very good guy. I've grown into something far more useless and pathetic. But as a young teenager, I was very deeply concerned of how useless I am, and uh, how how am I going to function in this world where everybody is very smart and they're um, very cooperative, and there's something that I can never ever imagine. And I was very comfortable in that. And even now, but a child should be given at least a little bit of credit for what he does. And if, even though I strictly um, laugh on the fact to write yourself letters in the past, but if I were, I
Now,
would
why
tell
do you
my
laugh?
17-year-old to
Why do you laugh on this fact? We have to know that.
because it does not actually matter that we regret something that happened to us, because
Yeah,
there is no actual self in this world, and because the self does not matter. The the more we get into psychoanalysis, and the more we get someone gets into everything, that actually he or she realizes in the end that he is nothing, that there is something far greater than his useless self, that him being something that has to be put up as a higher being. And in the hierarchy I will jump into some biology here, that when we do have, because there is no satiation for a person, we cannot be fully conquered with what we want. We will always want something. That is understood fact. Even it's understood to our level of being a fact. So if we have pain or we have some suffering in us or we have some scars in us, if we try to actively address that, I think we will die and they will never ever end, and we will never ever be content with our past life. But the goal of understanding and the goal of reading and the goal of literature and the goal of psychoanalysis and philosophy in all is to actually tell a person that if you turn your gaze into something else, that will take your problems away. Yeah, I know that is paradoxical, and I know that someone says, "Oh no," some will say that no, that does not work that way, and you have to go and address your past self, and that is the only way that you're going to end up fixing yourself. But loving, if you truly love yourself, as everyone in 2025 says that you have to love yourself, then you have to love yourself the way you are, and not actually change parts of yourself. And if we really were that loving to ourselves, we will not be changing our noses and changing our eyes and changing our chin so much as we are today. So I did take this conversation longer than I had wanted to, but it is a very subtle fact that we have to realize that what we are is a product of those that are around us, and how we deal with them uh, uh, actively results in how we deal with ourselves. And we cannot just sit around here reading with no purpose at all, just for the fun of it. I agree, you have to read something for the fun of it, but that should not be the purpose. That cannot be the purpose. You cannot function that. And that a higher purpose is essential.
Beautiful. I have so much to take away from this conversation. I think I'll have to kind of watch it back and then take away certain things and then kind of reflect on these things. I wish if we could continue this conversation. We always do that when we go out, when we have chai, when we are with friends. We keep on talking about different ideas, and it's always fun to kind of just take your ideas and then reflect on them and then think about them and then try to just you know take it in. Hamza, thank you so much for this time. Thank you so much for this conversation, and thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Chalo,
Take care of
Hamza,
yourself.
take care. Allah Hafiz, Allah Hafiz, Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, Allah Hafiz.
Hello.